My manager laughed at my old car. Months later, I bought her company revenge story length, 25,000 words tone, intense, cinematic, realistic, and addictive. Every line should sound natural when narrated aloud and should pull the listener deeper emotionally. Main character, female, name, Emma, language, English narration style. Use first-person storytelling, I, me, my. Keep sentences short, emotional, and natural. Use tension, pauses, and realism like real storytelling, not written narration. Describe emotions and atmosphere cinematically. Keep dialogue realistic and human. Story structure Act 1. Hook plus suspense build-up. Begin with a shocking or emotional first line that immediately grabs attention. Right after the hook, add a short, natural audience line. For example, if you're enjoying this so far, don't forget to like the video and watch till the end. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Continue with the suspense and emotional build-up. I stood in front of her desk, holding my resume with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. She looked up. Her eyes moved from my face to my shoes, back to my face. Then she smiled. Not a kind smile. You're too poor for this job. 5 words. That's all it took to shatter me. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. My throat closed up. My chest felt tight. I just stood there, frozen, while she leaned back in her chair like she just told me the weather forecast. Her name was Victoria Kane, head of operations at Kane Associates, one of the biggest consulting firms in the city. Sharp suit. Perfect hair. The kind of woman who looked like she'd never struggled a day in her life. I was Emma, 26 years old. Wearing a blazer I'd bought from a thrift store and shoes I'd repaired myself 3 times because I couldn't afford new ones. Did you hear me? Victoria said. Her voice was smooth, calm, like she was doing me a favor. I heard you, I whispered. Good. Then you understand why this won't work. She gestured at me. All of me. This company has a reputation. Our clients are CEOs, investors, people with influence. They expect a certain standard. I felt my face burn. I have the qualifications. I have the experience. You drove here in a car that's older than you are, she interrupted. I saw it in the parking lot. That rusted blue Honda with the dented door. That's yours, isn't it? I wanted to lie. God, I wanted to lie. But I nodded. She laughed. Actually laughed. Sweetheart, our junior associates drive better cars than that. How do you expect to meet clients? Take them to lunch. Represent this company when you can barely represent yourself. Something inside me cracked. If you're enjoying this so far, don't forget to like the video and watch till the end. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'd worked 2 jobs to put myself through college. I'd slept 4 hours a night for 3 years. I'd graduated top of my class with a degree in business strategy. I'd built financial models for failing companies and turned them around during my internship. I'd done everything right. And this woman looked at me like I was dirt. I can do this job, I said. My voice was stronger now. I know I can. Victoria sighed. She picked up my resume, glanced at it, then dropped it in the trash bin next to her desk. I watched it fall. Watched it land on top of someone's coffee cup. Watched the edges get stained with brown liquid. Here's some advice, Victoria said. Fix yourself first. Get a better car. Better clothes. Better everything. Then maybe you can try again. But not here. I'll make sure of that. She turned back to her computer. I was dismissed. I walked out of that office with tears burning behind my eyes. I held them back until I reached the parking lot. Until I sat in my rusted blue Honda with the dented door. Until I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. Then I cried. I cried because she was right. I was poor. I'd always been poor. My mom had raised me alone after my dad left. We'd lived in a 1-bedroom apartment where the heat didn't work in winter. I'd worn donated clothes and eaten free school lunches. I'd clawed my way out of that life, and I really thought I'd finally made it. But people like Victoria would always see the poor girl. Always. I drove home in silence. My phone rang twice. I didn't answer. I just wanted to disappear. My apartment was small. Studio. Barely enough room for a bed and a desk. But it was mine. I'd worked so hard for it. I threw my blazer on the floor, kicked off my repaired shoes, sat on the edge of my bed and stared at nothing. Then my phone buzzed. A text from my best friend, Marissa. "How'd the interview go?" I stared at the message. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I started typing. Deleted it. Started again. Finally, I just wrote, "I didn't get it." 3 dots appeared. Then, "Their loss. You're brilliant. Something better will come along." I wanted to believe her. I did. But all I could hear was Victoria's voice. "You're too poor for this job." I lay back on my bed. Closed my eyes. Tried to breathe. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the interview in my head. Every word. Every look. The way she dropped my resume in the trash like it was nothing. Like I was nothing. At 2 a.m, I got up. Made coffee. Sat at my desk. Opened my laptop. I didn't know what I was looking for. Maybe inspiration. Maybe proof that I wasn't worthless. Maybe just a distraction. I started researching Kane Associates. Their client list. Their revenue. Their structure. And then I found something interesting. The company wasn't as stable as it looked. They'd lost 3 major clients in the past 6 months. Their stock, private stock, held by a few key investors, had dropped 12%. They were bleeding money. But from the outside, they looked perfect. Polished. Untouchable. Just like Victoria. I dug deeper. Found financial reports. Leaked emails. Industry gossip on forums where people thought they were anonymous. Kane Associates was a house of cards. And nobody knew it yet. I sat back. Stared at my screen. An idea formed in my mind. Crazy. Impossible. But it wouldn't go away. What if I could fix them? What if I could save their company and then take it from them? I laughed out loud. Alone in my apartment at 3 a.m, I laughed until tears ran down my face. Because it was insane. I had no money. No connections. No power. But I had something Victoria didn't. I had nothing to lose. The next morning, I made a plan. A real one. First, I needed money. Not much. Just enough to start. I had $7,000 in savings. Money I'd been putting aside for emergencies. Money I'd earned serving tables and tutoring students and doing freelance consulting work on the side. I took it all out. Every penny. Then I reached out to someone I'd met during my internship. David Chen. He'd been a financial analyst at a venture capital firm. We'd worked together on a project once. He'd told me if I ever needed anything, I should call. I called. "Emma." His voice was surprised. "It's been a while. What's up?" "I need your help," I said. "And I need you to trust me." There was a pause. Then, "I'm listening." I told him about Kane Associates. About their financial problems. About how they were vulnerable. About how I thought I could turn them around if I could get inside. "Why would you want to help them?" David asked. "I don't want to help them," I said. "I want to own them." Another pause. Longer this time. "That's ambitious," he finally said. "What do you need from me?" "An introduction. You know investors. I need to meet someone who'd be willing to take a risk on a company that looks stable but isn't." David was quiet. I could hear him breathing on the other end of the line. "There's a guy," he said slowly. "Richard Morse. He's a vulture investor. Buys struggling companies, turns them around, sells them for profit. He's ruthless. But he's smart. And if you can convince him." "Set up a meeting," I said. "Emma, are you sure about this?" No. I wasn't sure. I was terrified. But I thought about Victoria's smile. About my resume in the trash. About every person who'd ever looked at me and decided I wasn't enough. "I'm sure," I said. The meeting was in 3 days. Downtown. Some expensive restaurant where the cheapest appetizer cost more than my weekly groceries. I had nothing to wear. Nothing appropriate. So I went back to the thrift store. Spent 2 hours searching. Found a navy dress that almost fit. Took it home and altered it myself with a sewing kit I'd had since high school. I practiced my pitch 100 times. In front of the mirror. In the shower. While I was making coffee. I memorized every number. Every fact. Every weakness in Kane Associates' armor. On the day of the meeting, I woke up at 5. Couldn't eat. My stomach was twisted in knots. I put on the navy dress. Did my makeup carefully. Pulled my hair back. I looked at myself in the mirror. I didn't look rich. I didn't look powerful. But I looked determined. That would have to be enough. Richard Morse was exactly what I expected. 50s. Grey hair. Expensive watch. Eyes that calculated your worth in the first 3 seconds. He sat across from me in a booth with leather seats. Ordered scotch. Didn't ask what I wanted. You have 15 minutes, he said. David says you have something interesting. Prove it. I opened my laptop. Showed him everything. The financial reports. The client losses. The internal problems. The public perception versus the private reality. Kane Associates looks successful, I said. But they're not. They're dying. Slowly. And nobody sees it yet. Richard leaned back. Sipped his scotch. Why should I care? Because I can save them. I know exactly what they're doing wrong. I know how to fix it. And once I do, the company will be worth 3 times what it is now. You're 26 years old with no track record, Richard said. Why would I trust you? I'd expected this. I pulled out another file. My own work. Case studies from my internship. Financial models I'd built. Strategies I'd developed. These are companies I fixed, I said. For free. During my internship. I didn't get credit. But I did the work. And every single one of them is thriving now. Richard took the file. Flipped through it slowly. His expression didn't change. Even if you're right, he said, even if you can fix Kane Associates, how do you plan to get inside? They're not going to hire you. And they're certainly not going to let you buy them. I smiled. For the first time since I'd walked into that office and heard Victoria's words, I smiled. They will, I said. Because I'm not going to knock on the front door. I'm going in through the back. Richard raised an eyebrow. Explain. Kane Associates has a failing division. Business restructuring. It's losing money. They're about to shut it down. I'm going to buy it. For almost nothing. Once I own that division, I'll turn it around. I'll make it the most profitable part of the company. And then I'll leverage that success to take over the rest. That could take years. It'll take 3 months, I said. Richard laughed. Actually laughed. You're either brilliant or insane. Maybe both, I said. He stared at me. I didn't look away. Didn't blink. I'd come too far to back down now. Finally, Richard put down his glass. I'll give you $50,000. That's it. If you can buy that division and turn it around in 3 months, I'll invest more. If you fail, you owe me nothing, but we're done. Deal? I felt my heart pounding. $50,000. It wasn't much. But it was enough. Deal, I said. We shook hands. His grip was firm. Testing me. I didn't flinch. Walking out of that restaurant, I felt different. Lighter. Like something had shifted inside me. I had $50,000. I had a plan. And I had 3 months. Now I just had to pull it off. The next week, I contacted Kane Associates. Not Victoria. I went straight to their CFO. A man named Peter Halloway. I'd researched him. He was practical. Numbers focused. And he was desperate to cut costs. I sent him an email. Professional. Direct. I'm interested in purchasing your business restructuring division. I believe I can make it profitable. Let's talk. He responded within an hour. How much are you offering? I'd calculated this carefully. The division was worth about $200,000 on paper. But it was losing money. They'd be lucky to find any buyer. $45,000, I wrote back. Cash. Immediate transfer. Peter called me that afternoon. Are you serious? Completely, I said. I've analyzed the division. I know why it's failing. I can fix it. But I need full control. Who are you? Peter asked. Suspicion in his voice. Someone who sees opportunity where others see failure, I said. There was a long silence. Then, come in tomorrow. Let's discuss this. I walked into Kane Associates the next day wearing the same navy dress, carrying the same laptop. But this time, I wasn't there to beg for a job. I was there to buy a piece of their company. Peter met me in a conference room. Grey suit. Tired eyes. He looked like a man who'd been fighting fires for too long. Emma, right, he said. You're young. Age doesn't determine competence, I replied. He smiled slightly. Fair enough. Tell me your plan. I opened my laptop. Showed him everything. The division was failing because they were targeting the wrong clients. They were trying to restructure large corporations, companies that already had internal teams. They were competing in a saturated market. You need to pivot, I said. Target mid-sized companies. Businesses that are too big for generic consultants but too small for major firms. There's a gap in the market. I can fill it. Peter listened. Actually listened. When I finished, he sat back. You really think you can make this work? I know I can, I said. He studied me for a long moment. Then he picked up his phone. Made a call. Victoria, come to conference room B. My heart stopped. No. No, no, no. The door opened. Victoria walked in. Same perfect hair. Same sharp suit. She looked at Peter, then at me. Her eyes widened slightly. Recognition. What's she doing here? Victoria asked. She's buying the restructuring division, Peter said calmly. Victoria's expression shifted. Confusion. Then disbelief. Then something else. Anger. You're joking. I'm not, Peter said. She's offering $45,000 cash. We've been trying to offload that division for months. This is the first real offer we've had. She can't afford $45,000, Victoria said. She looked at me like I was a roach she wanted to crush. I interviewed her 3 weeks ago. She drove here in a car held together with rust and prayer. She's nobody. She has the money, Peter said. I've verified it. Victoria's jaw tightened. I could see her mind working. Calculating. Trying to figure out how this was possible. Peter, this is a mistake, Victoria said. Her voice was sharp now. She has no experience running a division. No connections. She'll run it into the ground and make us look bad. The division is already failing, Peter said. At this point, what do we have to lose? Victoria turned to me. Her eyes were cold. You really think you can do this? I met her gaze. Didn't look away. I know I can. Fine, Victoria said. She smiled. That same cruel smile from 3 weeks ago. Let's make this interesting. You want the division? Take it. But when you fail, and you will fail, I want you to admit it. Publicly. I want you to stand in front of everyone and say you weren't good enough. And when I succeed? I asked. Victoria laughed. You won't. But if I do? She waved her hand dismissively. Then I'll personally apologize. Happy. Very, I said. We signed the papers that afternoon. I transferred $45,000. Just like that, I owned the business restructuring division of Kane Associates. Victoria watched the whole thing with a smirk on her face. Like she was watching me sign my own death warrant. Maybe I was. But I didn't care anymore. I was all in. That night, I moved into the small office space that came with the division. 2 rooms. Outdated furniture. A coffee maker that barely worked. I had 5 employees. 3 of them had already started looking for new jobs. The other 2 looked at me like I was crazy. Who are you? One of them asked. A woman in her 40s named Linda. I'm Emma, I said. And I'm here to turn this division around. In 3 months. Linda laughed. Good luck with that. I don't need luck, I said. I need all of you to trust me. They didn't. Not at first. But I didn't blame them. They'd been part of a failing division for months. They'd watched clients leave. Watched the company give up on them. Watched their careers crumble. Why would they trust me? So I showed them. I worked 18-hour days. I cold-called potential clients. I rebuilt our pitch from scratch. I targeted exactly the companies I'd told Peter about, mid-sized businesses that were struggling but had potential. Within 2 weeks, I'd landed our first client. A manufacturing company that was hemorrhaging money. They were desperate. They took a chance on me because they had nothing to lose. I spent 3 days analyzing their entire operation. Found the problems. Excessive inventory costs. Inefficient supply chain. Poor cash flow management. I fixed it. All of it. Within a month, their costs dropped by 30%. Their profit margins doubled. They told other companies. Word spread. By week 6, we had 4 clients. By week 8, we had 9. By week 10, we were profitable. My team stopped looking at me like I was crazy. They started working harder. Staying later. Believing. Linda came into my office one evening. I was reviewing a financial model. Hadn't eaten all day. Hadn't slept more than 4 hours a night in weeks. Emma, she said quietly. I looked up. Yeah. Thank you, she said. For not giving up on us. I felt something crack in my chest. I never gave up on us. I just needed you all to believe it was possible. She smiled. Then left. I went back to work. 3 months after I bought the division, I walked into Peter Holloway's office. I carried a folder. Numbers. Proof. Our division is now the most profitable part of Kane Associates, I said. We've brought in $800,000 in revenue. We've landed 15 clients. And we're projected to double that in the next quarter. Peter stared at the numbers. Then at me. How did you do this? I worked harder than anyone thought possible, I said. And I didn't let anyone tell me I wasn't good enough. Peter leaned back in his chair. He looked exhausted. Older than he had 3 months ago. Emma, I'm going to be honest with you, he said. Kane Associates is in trouble. We're still losing clients. Our reputation is slipping. The board is talking about selling the company or shutting down completely. I know, I said. He blinked. You know? I've known since before I bought the division, I said. That's why I bought it. I knew you were vulnerable. I knew you needed a win. And I knew I could give it to you. Peter studied me. Why are you telling me this? Because I want to buy the company, I said. All of it. The room went silent. Peter's mouth opened slightly, then closed. He seemed to be processing my words. You want to buy Kane Associates? Yes. Emma, this company is worth $12 million on paper, I interrupted. But we both know it's not worth that anymore. You've lost major clients. Your stock has dropped. Your reputation is damaged. I'd estimate the company is worth about $4 million right now. Maybe less. Peter didn't argue. He couldn't. Because I was right. I don't have $4 million, I continued. But I have an investor who does. Richard Morse. He's willing to finance the purchase if I can prove the company is worth saving. And you think you can save it? I've already saved one division, I said. I can save the rest. Peter was quiet for a long time. I could see the wheels turning in his head. He was tired. The board was pressuring him. The company was crumbling. And here I was, offering him a way out. I'll talk to the board, he finally said. Thank you, I said. I left his office feeling like I was floating. This was really happening. It was actually happening. But I wasn't done yet. There was one more thing I needed to do. I went to Victoria's office. Knocked on the door. She looked up from her computer, and when she saw me, her expression hardened. What do you want? She asked. I came to collect, I said. Collect what? Your apology. Victoria's eyes narrowed. Excuse me? 3 months ago, you said if I succeeded, you'd personally apologize. Well, I succeeded. The restructuring division is the most profitable part of this company now. So I'm here for my apology. Victoria laughed. It was a harsh, bitter sound. You got lucky. That's all. You think turning around one failing division makes you special? I think keeping my word makes me special, I said. Something you apparently don't value. Victoria stood up. Walked around her desk. She was taller than me. She wanted me to feel small. But I didn't. Not anymore. Let me tell you something, Emma, Victoria said. Her voice was low. Dangerous. You don't belong here. You never did. You can dress up in your thrift store clothes and pretend you're one of us, but everyone knows the truth. You're poor. You're desperate. And the moment you slip, and you will slip, everyone will see it. I smiled. You're scared. What? You're scared of me, I said. Because I did something you said was impossible. And now you're realizing that maybe, just maybe, you were wrong about me. Victoria's face flushed red. Get out of my office. Gladly, I said. But you should know something. I'm buying this company. Peter's talking to the board right now. And when I own Kane Associates, you'll be working for me. The poor girl you threw away. I turned and walked out. Didn't wait for her response. Didn't need to. The look on her face was enough. 2 weeks later, the board approved the sale. Richard Morse financed the purchase. $4.2 million. I signed papers that made my hand cramp. Lawyers talked in legal jargon I barely understood. But when it was done, it was official. I owned Kane Associates. Me. Emma. The girl who'd been told she was too poor for this job. The announcement went out company-wide the next morning. I called a meeting. Every employee. Every department. The conference room was packed. People stood against the walls. I saw confusion. Suspicion. Fear. And in the back, I saw Victoria. Her face was pale. Her jaw was clenched so tight I thought it might break. My name is Emma, I said. As of today, I'm the new owner of Kane Associates. I know many of you don't know me. Some of you do. And some of you probably think I'm too young or too inexperienced for this position. I paused. Looked directly at Victoria. You're entitled to your opinion. But here's what I know. This company is struggling. We've lost clients. We've lost revenue. We've lost our reputation. And if we don't change, we'll lose everything. I pulled up a presentation. Numbers. Strategies. Plans. This is how we're going to fix it. We're going to restructure every department. We're going to target new markets. We're going to rebuild our reputation from the ground up. It's going to be hard. It's going to take all of us. But if we do this right, Kane Associates will be stronger than it's ever been. People were listening now. Really listening. I could see it in their faces. Hope. Maybe even belief. I'm not asking for blind faith, I said. I'm asking for a chance. Give me 3 months. If I can't turn this company around, I'll step down. But if I can, I need every single person in this room to commit. To work harder than you've ever worked. To believe that we can do this. The room was silent. Then Linda stood up. I believe in you, Emma. You saved our division. You'll save this company. One by one, other people stood. Nodded. Agreed. Not everyone. But enough. Victoria didn't stand. She just stared at me with cold, calculating eyes. After the meeting, Victoria came to my office. New office. The owner's office. It was huge. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Mahogany desk. View of the city. I was standing by the window when she walked in. Didn't knock. Just walked in like she owned the place. Old habits. You're making a mistake, Victoria said. I turned to face her. Am I? This company is too broken. You can't fix it. And when you fail, you'll lose everything. Your money. Your reputation. Everything. Maybe, I said. But at least I tried. That's more than you can say. Victoria's expression twisted. What's that supposed to mean? You've been here for 8 years, I said. You've watched this company decline. You knew there were problems. But instead of fixing them, you protected yourself. You blamed other people. You threw away anyone who didn't fit your perfect image. I did my job, you did the bare minimum, I interrupted. And now you're scared because someone you underestimated is in charge. Someone you told wasn't good enough. Victoria's hands clenched into fists. You think you're better than me? No, I said. I think I'm hungrier than you. I think I want this more. And I think that makes all the difference. Victoria stared at me for a long moment. Then she turned and walked out. Slammed the door behind her. I stood there, alone in my office, and let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. This was just the beginning. The next 3 months were brutal. I restructured every department. Cut costs where we were bleeding money. Invested in areas with potential. I reached out to old clients we'd lost. Apologized. Showed them our new strategy. Convinced them to give us another chance. Some came back. Some didn't. But slowly, painfully, we started to turn things around. Victoria fought me every step of the way. She questioned my decisions. Undermined me in meetings. Spread rumors that I didn't know what I was doing. But I kept going. Because I'd been underestimated my entire life. I was used to it. One afternoon, I was in my office reviewing contracts when Peter knocked on the door. Emma, do you have a minute? Of course, I said. Come in. Peter sat down. He looked better than he had months ago. Less tired. Less defeated. I wanted to talk to you about Victoria. I set down my pen. What about her? She's been causing problems. I've heard from multiple people that she's actively working against you. Trying to sabotage projects. Turning employees against you. I wasn't surprised. I'd noticed. But I'd been too busy fixing the company to deal with it. What do you think I should do? I asked. Peter hesitated. I think you should fire her. I sat back in my chair. Thought about it. Victoria had tried to destroy me. She'd humiliated me. She'd done everything in her power to make sure I failed. Firing her would be easy. Justified, even. But something stopped me. No, I said. Peter blinked. No. I'm not going to fire her, I said. Not yet, anyway. Why not? Because firing her would be too easy, I said. She'd leave thinking she was right about me. That I couldn't handle her. That I wasn't strong enough. Then what will you do? I smiled. I'm going to make her respect me. Peter looked skeptical. Emma, I don't think that's possible. Maybe not, I said. But I'm going to try. The next morning, I called Victoria into my office. She came in with her usual cold expression. Arms crossed. Defensive. You wanted to see me, she said. Sit down, I said. She hesitated. Then Saturday. Perched on the edge of the chair like she might bolt at any second. I know you've been working against me, I said. I know you've been questioning my decisions. Undermining my authority. Trying to turn people against me. Victoria's jaw tightened. I have concerns about your leadership. Let me finish, I interrupted. I could fire you. I probably should fire you. But I'm not going to. She looked confused. Suspicious. Why not? Because you're good at your job, I said. When you're not busy sabotaging me, you're one of the most competent people in this company. You understand operations. You know our clients. You have skills I need. So what do you want? I want you to work with me, I said. Not against me. I want you to take everything you know about this company and help me make it better. And in return, I'll give you more responsibility. More authority. A real chance to shape this company's future. Victoria stared at me. You're serious. Completely. Why would you do that? After everything I've done? I leaned forward. Because I'm not interested in revenge, Victoria. I'm interested in success. And I can't do this alone. I need people who are smart, who are capable. Even if they hate me. Victoria was quiet for a long time. I could see her thinking, calculating, trying to figure out if this was a trap. What if I say no? She asked. Then I'll fire you, I said. Right now. Today. And you'll leave knowing you threw away a real opportunity because you were too proud to admit you were wrong. More silence. Then Victoria uncrossed her arms, sat back in her chair. What do you need me to do? Over the next month, something strange happened. Victoria started working with me. Really working with me. She brought ideas to meetings. Fixed problems before I even knew they existed. Collaborated instead of competed. It wasn't easy. We argued. A lot. But the arguments were productive now. We were pushing each other to be better. One evening, we were both working late. The office was empty. Just the two of us and the hum of the air conditioning. Victoria came into my office. She looked tired. Human. Can I ask you something? Sure, I said. Why did you do this? Why did you buy this company? It wasn't just about proving me wrong, was it? I thought about it. Really thought about it. No, I finally said. It was about proving myself right. What do you mean? My whole life, people have told me I wasn't enough, I said. Too poor. Too young. Too inexperienced. Too everything. And for a long time, I believed them. But then you threw my resume in the trash, and something inside me broke. I realized I had two choices. I could accept what you said. Let it define me. Or I could prove you wrong. And you chose to prove me wrong. I chose to prove myself right, I corrected. There's a difference. I didn't do this for you, Victoria. I did it for me. To show myself that I was capable of more than anyone, including me, thought possible. Victoria was quiet. Then she said something I never expected. I'm sorry. I looked up. What? I'm sorry, she repeated. For what I said to you. For how I treated you. I was wrong. You were never too poor for this job. You were just different from what I expected. And I couldn't see past that. I felt something loosen in my chest. Something I'd been carrying for months. Thank you, I said quietly. Victoria nodded. Then left. But something had shifted between us. We'd never be friends. But we didn't have to be enemies anymore. 6 months after I bought Kane Associates, we landed the biggest client in the company's history. A tech giant that needed help restructuring their entire European division. $20 million contract. The board was ecstatic. Employees were celebrating. And I stood in my office, looking out at the city, feeling like I could finally breathe. Peter came in. You did it, Emma. You really did it. We did it, I corrected. All of us. Peter smiled. You know, when you first walked in here and said you wanted to buy this company, I thought you were crazy. I almost laughed you out of the room. What stopped you? Something in your eyes, he said. Determination. Or maybe desperation. I couldn't tell. But I figured, what did we have to lose? And now I think you're the best thing that ever happened to this company. After Peter left, I sat down at my desk. Pulled out my phone. Scrolled to an old photo. Me, 3 years ago, standing next to my rusted blue Honda. Smiling. Hopeful. Thinking I was about to start my real life. That girl had no idea what was coming. The rejection. The pain. The impossible climb. But she'd survived. More than survived. She'd won. I posted the photo on the company's internal newsletter. Added a caption. This was me 3 years ago. I was told I wasn't good enough. That I was too poor. Too inexperienced. Too everything. Today, I own the company that rejected me. This isn't about revenge. It's about resilience. About refusing to let anyone else define your worth. Whatever you're facing, whatever people say you can't do, prove them wrong. But more importantly, prove yourself right. The post went viral inside the company. Then outside. Someone shared it on LinkedIn. Then Twitter. Then it was picked up by business magazines. Within a week, I was getting interview requests, podcasts, speaking invitations. Everyone wanted to know the story of the girl who bought the company that rejected her. But there was one interview I actually wanted to do. A feature in Business Insider. They wanted to profile the turnaround of Kane Associates. They wanted to talk about leadership, strategy, success. The reporter's name was Michael. Mid-30s. Sharp questions. He sat across from me in my office, recorder running, notebook open. So let me get this straight, he said. 7 months ago, you were rejected for a job here. Now you own the company. That's quite a journey. It is, I said. What was the moment you decided to do this? To actually buy the company? I thought back to that night. Sitting in my tiny apartment. Unable to sleep. Staring at my laptop screen. It was the moment I realized I had nothing to lose. When you have nothing, you can risk everything. That's pretty philosophical for a business strategy. Business is philosophy, I said. It's about understanding what drives people. What they fear. What they want. Numbers matter, but psychology matters more. Michael scribbled notes. Your former manager, Victoria Kane, she's not former, I interrupted. She still works here. She's our director of strategic operations now. Michael looked surprised. Really? After what happened between you two? She's brilliant at her job, I said simply. And I don't make decisions based on personal feelings. I make them based on what's best for the company. That's remarkably mature. It's remarkably practical, I corrected. After the interview, Michael asked if he could tour the office. Talk to some employees. Get their perspective. I agreed. I watched him interview Linda. Watched him talk to the team I'd inherited when I bought the restructuring division. They all said the same thing. That I'd given them hope. That I'd believed in them when no one else did. Then Michael talked to Victoria. I wasn't supposed to listen, but I stood outside the conference room. The door was slightly open. I couldn't help myself. What's it like working for someone you once rejected? Michael asked. Victoria was quiet for a moment. Humbling, she finally said. But also enlightening. I learned that I'd been measuring people by the wrong metrics. I thought success looked like expensive suits and perfect credentials. But Emma taught me that success looks like hunger. Like determination. Like refusing to quit even when everyone tells you to. Do you regret how you treated her? Every day, Victoria said. But I'm grateful she gave me a chance to make it right. Not everyone would have done that. I moved away from the door. Didn't need to hear more. Didn't want Victoria to know I'd been listening. The article came out 2 weeks later. The headline was From Rejection to Redemption, How Emma Built an Empire from Nothing. It was everywhere. My phone exploded with messages. Old classmates I hadn't talked to in years. Former professors. People I'd served coffee to when I was working my way through college. Everyone wanted to congratulate me. Everyone wanted to be part of my success now that it was visible. But there was one message I actually cared about. From my mom. I always knew you could do anything. I'm so proud of you. Love, Mom. I stared at that message for a long time. My mom had worked 3 jobs to raise me. She'd gone without so I could have school supplies. She'd believed in me even when I didn't believe in myself. I called her. She answered on the second ring. Emma. Hi, Mom. I saw the article. Baby, I can't believe, her voice cracked. I'm just so proud of you. Mom, don't cry. I'm not crying, she said, obviously crying. I'm just so happy. After everything you went through. Everything we went through. You did it. You really did it. We did it, Mom. I wouldn't be here without you. We talked for an hour. About everything. About the apartment where we used to live. About the times we'd eaten cereal for dinner because it was all we could afford. About how far we'd both come. When I hung up, I felt full. Complete. Like everything had finally come together. But the universe wasn't done with me yet. The next morning, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer. But something made me pick up. "Hello, Emma. This is James Westwood." I froze. James Westwood, CEO of Westwood Enterprises, one of the largest consulting conglomerates in the world. Kane Associates was tiny compared to them. "Mr. Westwood," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "What can I do for you? I read the article about you. Very impressive. I'd like to meet. Discuss a potential opportunity." "What kind of opportunity?" "The kind we should discuss in person." "Are you free tomorrow?" "I'm in the city. We could have lunch." My mind raced. This was either incredible or dangerous. Maybe both. "Tomorrow works." "Excellent. I'll have my assistant send you the details." He hung up. I sat there holding my phone, heart pounding. What did James Westwood want with me? The restaurant was even more expensive than the one where I'd met Richard Morse. The kind of place where they don't list prices on the menu because if you have to ask, you can't afford it. James Westwood was waiting for me. 60-something. Silver hair. Presence that filled the room. He stood when I arrived. Shook my hand. "Emma. Thank you for meeting me." "Of course," I said. "We Saturday." Ordered. Made small talk about the weather and the city. But I could feel the tension. The real conversation waiting beneath the surface. Finally, James set down his water glass. Looked at me directly. "I'll get to the point. I want to buy Kane Associates." I'd expected something like this. But hearing it out loud still sent a jolt through me. "It's not for sale." "Everything's for sale," James said. "It's just a matter of price. I'm prepared to offer you $15 million. That's more than triple what you paid for it." $15 million. Life-changing money. Generational wealth. I could pay off my mom's mortgage. Never worry about money again. Walk away from the stress and the endless work. "That's a generous offer," I said carefully. "It is. And it comes with a position for you. Senior Vice President at Westwood Enterprises. You'd oversee all our business restructuring divisions. Salary, benefits, stock options. Everything you could want. And what happens to Kane Associates? We absorb it. Fold it into Westwood. The brand would disappear, but the work would continue." I thought about my team. Linda. The people who'd believed in me. The company we'd built together. What about my employees? We'd keep the best ones. Let go of the rest. Standard acquisition process. Standard. Like people's livelihoods were just line items on a spreadsheet. I thought about Victoria. About Peter. About everyone who'd worked so hard to turn this company around. "I appreciate the offer, Mr. Westwood," I said. "But I have to decline." James raised an eyebrow. "You're turning down $15 million? "I'm turning down the chance to let someone else destroy what I built," I said. "Kane Associates isn't just a company to me. It's proof that people like me belong in this world. That we can succeed. That we can build something meaningful. If I sell to you, that story ends. And I'm not ready for it to end." James studied me. "You're very young. You think idealism will sustain you. But this industry is brutal. Westwood Enterprises is 10 times your size. We can compete with you. Undercut you. Take your clients. Then I guess I'll have to work harder," I said. James smiled. Not cruel like Victoria's smile had been. Something else. Respect, maybe. "You remind me of myself 30 years ago. Before I learned that sometimes winning means knowing when to sell." "Maybe," I said. "But I'd rather lose on my own terms than win on someone else's." We finished lunch. Shook hands. James gave me his card. "If you change your mind, call me. The offer stands for 30 days. I took the card. Knew I'd never use it. But I took it anyway. Walking back to the office, I felt light. Free. I'd been offered everything I thought I wanted. And I'd turned it down. Because somewhere along the way, this had stopped being about money. stopped being about revenge. It became about building something real. Something that mattered. When I got back to the office, Victoria was waiting outside my door. "Can we talk?" "Sure," I said. We went into my office. She closed the door behind her. "I heard James Westwood met with you," Victoria said. "News traveled fast." "How did you hear that?" "I have contacts." "What did he want?" "To buy the company." Victoria's expression tightened. "And?" I said no. She exhaled. Relief flooded her face. "Thank God." "I thought," she stopped. Shook her head. "I thought you might take it. 15 million is a lot of money." "It is," I agreed. "But this company is worth more than money to me." Victoria sat down. She looked vulnerable in a way I'd never seen before. "Emma, I need to tell you something. When I first met you, when I rejected you, it wasn't really about you. It was about me." "What do you mean?" "I grew up poor too," Victoria said quietly. "Not as poor as you, maybe. But close. I worked my way up. Changed everything about myself. My accent. My clothes. The way I talked. I erased the person I was because I thought that was the only way to succeed. And when I saw you, when I saw someone who was poor and struggling and still trying, it reminded me of everything I tried to forget. So I pushed you away. Because accepting you would mean accepting that I didn't have to change. That I could have stayed myself and still succeeded. I didn't know what to say. I'd spent months hating Victoria. Seeing her as the villain. But she was just another person trying to survive. Just like me." "Thank you for telling me that," I finally said. "I'm telling you because you deserve to know," Victoria said. "And because I want you to understand that what you're building here, it matters. You're showing people like us that we don't have to erase ourselves to succeed. We can be who we are. And that's powerful." After Victoria left, I sat in my office for a long time. Thinking. Processing. The girl who'd walked into this building 7 months ago would never have imagined this moment. Would never have believed that the woman who rejected her would become an ally. Would never have dreamed that she'd own this company. But she'd fought for it. Bled for it. Refused to give up. And now here she was. That evening, I stayed late. Everyone else had gone home. The office was quiet. Peaceful. I walked through the halls, looking at the empty desks. Thinking about the people who sat there. The lives we'd changed. The company we'd saved. My phone buzzed. A text from Richard Morse. "Saw you turned down Westwood. Ballsy move. Proud of you." I smiled. Texted back. "Learned from the best." Another buzz. This time from Marissa, my best friend. "Coffee this weekend? Need to hear about everything." "Definitely," I wrote back. I stood by the window in my office. Looked out at the city. Lights everywhere. Millions of people living their lives. Chasing their dreams. Fighting their battles. I was just one of them. One person who'd refused to accept no for an answer. Who'd taken the worst moment of her life and turned it into fuel. The story could have ended differently. I could have walked out of that interview and given up. Could have believed Victoria when she said I wasn't good enough. Could have let poverty define me forever. But I didn't. I chose to fight. And that made all the difference. 6 months later, Kane Associates was thriving. We'd doubled our revenue. Expanded to 3 new cities. Hired 50 new employees. We were featured in Forbes, Fortune, and Business Week. I was invited to speak at conferences. Universities wanted me to give commencement speeches. But the moment that mattered most came on a random Tuesday afternoon. I was in my office when reception called. "Emma, there's someone here to see you. She doesn't have an appointment, but she says it's important." "Who is it?" "She won't give her name. She just says you'll want to see her." Curious, I went to reception. And there she was. A young woman. Early 20s. Wearing a blazer that looked second-hand. Shoes that had been repaired. Holding a resume with shaking hands. She looked exactly like I had 7 months ago. "Hi," she said nervously. My name is Sophia. I saw your story. About how you were rejected and how you built this company. And I hoped, maybe you'd look at my resume. I know I don't have much experience. And she gestured at herself, at her clothes, at everything. But I'm smart. And I'm willing to work harder than anyone. I just need someone to give me a chance. I looked at her resume. Excellent grades. Multiple jobs to pay for school. Recommendations from professors. Everything I'd had. Everything that hadn't mattered to Victoria. Come with me, I said. I took her to my office. Sat her down. Tell me about yourself. Sophia talked for 20 minutes. About growing up in a single-parent home. About working 3 jobs. About how she'd been rejected from 12 companies because she didn't fit their image. About how she was about to give up. I listened to every word. Saw myself in every sentence. When she finished, I said, "You're hired." Sophia blinked. What? You're hired. You start Monday. We'll figure out which department fits you best, but you're exactly the kind of person I want working here. But you didn't even ask me any interview questions. I didn't need to, I said. I know exactly who you are. Because I was you. And I know what you're capable of. Sophia started crying. Right there in my office. Tears streaming down her face. Thank you. Thank you so much. You have no idea what this means. I do, I said gently. I know exactly what it means. After Sophia left, I sat at my desk. Felt something settle in my chest. This was why I'd fought so hard. Why I'd refused to sell. Why I'd built this company. Not for revenge. Not for money. Not even for myself. For the Sophias of the world. For every person who'd been told they weren't enough. For everyone who needed someone to believe in them. That night, I drove home in my car. Not the rusted Honda anymore. I'd bought a new car 6 months ago. Nothing fancy. Just reliable. But sometimes I missed that old Honda. It reminded me of where I'd come from. Of how far I'd traveled. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. But I'd learned that unknown numbers sometimes brought opportunities. Hello. Emma. A woman's voice. Older. Uncertain. Yes. This is Margaret Chen. I'm James Westwood's executive assistant. Mr. Westwood asked me to call you. My hand tightened on the steering wheel. Okay. He wanted you to know that he's withdrawing his offer to buy Kane Associates. I felt a strange mix of relief and confusion. Why? He said to tell you. Margaret paused. He said to tell you that he was testing you. He wanted to see if you'd sell. If you'd compromise your principles for money. And you didn't. He said that's rare in this industry. He said you're going to do great things. And he's looking forward to competing with you. I didn't know whether to be angry or amused. He was testing me. Mr. Westwood tests everyone. It's how he figures out who's worth his time. Congratulations, Emma. You passed. She hung up. I sat there in my parked car, engine running, trying to process what I'd just heard. James Westwood had never intended to buy my company. He just wanted to see what I was made of. I started laughing. Couldn't help it. The absurdity of it all. The tests. The challenges. The constant need to prove myself. But I had proven myself. Over and over again. And I'd keep proving myself. Not to James Westwood or Victoria Kane or anyone else. But to that scared girl who'd stood in an office 7 months ago and been told she wasn't good enough. She deserved to know she was wrong about herself. She deserved to see what she was capable of. She deserved to win. And she had. Against impossible odds. Against every barrier. Against everyone who said it couldn't be done. She'd won. I drove home. My small apartment. I could afford something bigger now. Much bigger. But I hadn't moved yet. This place reminded me of who I was. Of where I'd started. I didn't want to forget. I made dinner. Simple pasta. Glass of wine. Sat by the window and looked out at the city. Thought about everything that had happened. Every twist. Every turn. Every moment of doubt and triumph. My phone buzzed. A text from Victoria. Thank you for today. For hiring Sophia. For remembering what it's like. I texted back. Always. 3 years later, Kane Associates was a household name in the consulting world. We'd expanded to 12 cities. Hired over 300 employees. I'd been featured on the cover of Time magazine. The new face of business, how Emma redefined success. But the thing I was most proud of wasn't the revenue or the recognition. It was the program I'd started. A scholarship and internship initiative for young people from low-income backgrounds. Kids who reminded me of myself. Kids who needed someone to believe in them. We'd helped 63 people so far. Given them opportunities. Training. Mentorship. Watched them thrive. Sophia was one of them. She was now a senior consultant. One of the best on my team. She'd bought her mom a house. Changed her family's life. And she'd done it through hard work and determination. One evening, I was giving a speech at a business conference. 1,000 people in the audience. Bright lights. I stood on that stage and told my story. The rejection. The climb. The victory. And at the end, I said, someone once told me I was too poor for success. They judged me by my car and my clothes and where I came from. They decided I wasn't enough before I even had a chance to prove myself. But here's what I learned. Poverty isn't a character flaw. Struggling isn't weakness. And anyone who tells you that you're not good enough because of circumstances beyond your control, they're wrong. You are enough. You've always been enough. You just need someone to see it. And if no one else will see it, you have to see it yourself. The applause was deafening. People stood. Some were crying. I saw faces in the crowd that looked like mine used to. Young. Hopeful. Scared. Fighting. After the speech, a line formed. People wanting to talk to me. Shake my hand. Share their stories. I stayed for 2 hours. Listened to every single person. Because I remembered what it felt like to be invisible. To be dismissed. To be told you don't matter. These people mattered. Every single one. And I wanted them to know it. Finally, the crowd cleared. I was packing up my things when someone approached. I looked up. And froze. It was Victoria. But different. Softer. She wore jeans and a simple blouse. Her hair was down. She looked almost nervous. Emma, she said. I hope it's okay that I came. Of course, I said. What are you doing here? I wanted to hear you speak. And I wanted to tell you something. Victoria took a breath. I'm leaving Kane Associates. My heart sank. What? Why? Not like that, Victoria said quickly. I'm not leaving because I'm unhappy. I'm leaving because you inspired me. I'm starting my own program. For women from disadvantaged backgrounds who want to get into corporate leadership. I want to help them the way you helped me. The way you helped Sophia. I want to be part of the solution instead of part of the problem. I felt tears prick my eyes. Victoria, that's amazing. I couldn't have done it without you, she said. You showed me what real leadership looks like. Not climbing over people. Not protecting yourself. But lifting others up. Building something bigger than yourself. We hugged. Right there in that empty conference hall. 2 women who'd started as enemies. Who'd hurt each other. Who'd learned to see each other as human. As equals. As allies. Thank you, Victoria whispered. For giving me a second chance. Thank you, I whispered back. For taking it. That night, I returned to my hotel room. Exhausted. Emotionally drained. But fulfilled in a way I'd never felt before. I opened my laptop. Checked my email. There was one from my mom. Subject line, look what I found. I opened it. There was an attachment. A photo. Me at 6 years old. Standing in front of our old apartment building. Wearing a dress that was too big. Shoes with holes in them. But smiling. Really smiling. My mom's message said, I found this today while cleaning. Look at that smile. Even then, even with nothing, you knew you were going to be something special. I'm so glad the world finally sees what I always saw. Love you, baby. Forever proud. I stared at that photo for a long time. That little girl had no idea what was coming. The hunger. The struggle. The rejection. The pain. But she also had no idea about the strength she'd find. The people she'd help. The life she'd build. If I could go back and talk to her, I'd tell her, it's going to be hard. Harder than you can imagine. People are going to hurt you. Dismiss you. Tell you you're not enough. But you are enough. You always were. And one day, you're going to stand on a stage in front of thousands of people and tell them your story. And they're going to listen. Because you turned your pain into purpose. Your rejection into resilience. Your struggle into strength. I closed my laptop. Turned off the lights. Lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Tomorrow, I'd fly home. Back to my company. Back to my team. Back to the work that mattered. But tonight, I let myself rest. Let myself feel the weight of everything I'd accomplished. Everything I'd overcome. Let myself be proud. Because I'd earned it. Every single moment. Every single victory. I was Emma. The girl who was told she was too poor for success. The woman who bought the company that rejected her. The leader who changed what leadership could look like. And this was just the beginning. There were more Sophias out there. More people who needed someone to believe in them. More stories waiting to be written. More lives waiting to be changed. I'd spent so long focused on revenge. On proving Victoria wrong. On showing everyone who'd dismissed me that they'd made a mistake. But somewhere along the way, it stopped being about them. It started being about something bigger. About using my success to create opportunities for others. About building a world where people like me didn't have to fight so hard just to be seen. That was the real victory. Not the money. Not the recognition. But the impact. The change. The hope. And I was just getting started.